exactly takes a holiday in Afghanistan, and why? Mukim Jamshadi, owner of Afghan Logistics and Tours, speaking to us across a noisy telephone connection from Kabul, has some ideas.
Afghanistan can offer different types of tourism: adventure tourism, kayaking, rafting. The most wanted areas or sites in Afghanistan are Kabul, Shamali Plains, Panjshir.
At the end of May, tourism experts and officials gathered in Afghanistan's Panjshir province for a tourism development conference hosted by the Panjshir Provincial Reconstruction Team, a collaborative effort on the part of the U.S. State Department, the U.S. Agency for International Development, the Department of Agriculture, and military forces. Conference attendees discussed ways to develop tourism as a source of sustainable income for the local communities. Ideas included the construction of a library and conference center, as well as the promotion of outdoor recreation like hiking and kayaking. Mark Lederman, the head of operations and longtime tour leader for Wild Frontiers, a travel company based in England offering trips into Afghanistan, elaborated on what exactly it is that draws his clients to Afghanistan and where they come from.
So we offer one trip. It's a cultural trip which doesn't involve any major trekking at all, and it allows people to stay in some of the guest houses, allowing people lots of interaction with local villagers.
These initiatives are only developing an already existing, if limited, tourist industry. Every year, a few intrepid travelers make their way into Afghanistan to visit the sites of the Buddhas of Bamyan, trek in the Hindu Kush, and kayak across Lake Bandi Amir. Lederman's company also offers a more challenging 30-day trip.
The other trip that we do is called the Afghan Explorer, and that trip is a very different type of trip. That trip does fly into Kabul, and depending on the security at the time, the plan is that we visit Herat Bamiyan, where the Buddhas used to stand. We go up to Mazar-e-Sharif, we visit the Panjshir Valley, and it's a much more all-encompassing trip of kind of Afghanistan.
Regina Shivens, a professor at Massey University in New Zealand, who focuses on the relationship between tourism and sustainable development for developing nations, offered her views of the possible benefits of promoting tourism in Afghanistan.
For some years it's been recognised that a certain group of intrepid travellers will travel to places that are still considered danger zones. There's been a lot of criticism of people who put their own lives in danger and get in the way of a conflict. There has been a certain amount of attraction of that to intrepid independent travellers who are used to trading stories of their various exploits along the way, and I don't particularly regard that as something that's very positive. However, it is also recognised that tourism can play a place in the rebuilding of countries in the post-conflict era.
Jamshedi talks more about these travellers.
Most of our clients, they come from the US and the UK and Europe, but we take clients from Asian countries as well. But for the Asian countries, the numbers are not as much as the US and UK.
Jamshedi says his clients have heard about Afghanistan and then read books and studied the region before visiting. Lederman found his clients similarly well prepared.
Everyone's got their own story. I'd say the one thing they share in common is all of them are quite well travelled. We don't get anyone wanting to go to Afghanistan who hasn't really left Europe before. Most people know what they're doing. They're usually very well read and very knowledgeable about the destination.
Shivens has some concerns, but also feels good about the people who are interested in these trips.
Other forms of tourism can be more negative if people are not respectful of the culture. But to be honest, I don't think that tourists who just want to lie back on a sun lounger by the pool and snap their fingers at a waiter asking for a cocktail are going to be going to Afghanistan. Different type of tourist who's interested in that experience anyway, and they probably are interested in the people and the culture and the environment.
Several aid organizations, like USAID, the New Zealand Aid Program, and the Aga Khan Foundation, see the potential for a tourist industry in the provinces like Bamyan or Panjshir. Those areas feature an abundance of natural attractions, and organizations have provided funds to train local tour guides and build the needed infrastructure. Shivens explains.
So, for example, the New Zealand Aid Program has invested money in Bamyan province in Afghanistan. We have a provincial reconstruction team that's working there. People from the New Zealand Aid Program believe that ecotourism offers opportunities for economic development and poverty reduction in Bamyan. They are trying to rebuild their economies. They're also trying to rebuild their international reputation. And to them, it's almost a sign of approval if they can get tourists back. And it's a sign that they're getting back on track with rebuilding their economy, with providing jobs for people who may have been displaced from their homes and work during periods of conflict, and it's a psychological sign of international confidence that they're on a road to peace. So that can be seen as something that's very positive for their development.
However, offering tours of Afghanistan comes with its own set of difficulties. Both Jamshedi and Lederman commented on the unique challenges of offering tours in Afghanistan.
The biggest challenge, the only challenge, is the security. There are some security problems in the south and eastern parts of the country, but they are still far from the regions that we are providing for.
With regards to some of the challenges, we're looking at security, obviously, is a key challenge. There is a risk, obviously, in travel to Afghanistan, and what we need to do is to assess those risks to the best of our ability, to minimize them as much as we can, but obviously not at the real point of destroying the reason why people are going there. For example, you could take people around in an armoured tank with security on all sides.
Lederman says he wouldn't operate in those situations because the whole point is to break down borders.
To try and introduce real Afghan people to people that are interested in the country, and obviously to allow them to meet us and to provide quite a unique interaction that isn't between military officials and kind of high-blown leaders. This is actually just normal people from the West meeting kind of normal people in the country. So it's finding that delicate balance is obviously a major challenge.
Despite these risks, though, many see tourism in Afghanistan as a worthwhile effort. Shivans explains that tourism can actually help to some extent with the peace-building process.
If it's developed in a way where the communities have ownership over the tourism product and they're getting a fair share of the benefits of tourism. So in a place like Bamiyan, if it went ahead and was bringing in sustainable livelihoods for the local people, they were earning enough to justify the effort they'd put into their labour and the resources they were providing for tourism. Then if they're having homestay type tourism, it can actually be very positive if the tourists going there are those that are more the eco-tourist type or those that are really interested in learning about the culture. There can be a genuine cultural exchange that goes on, and that can be very good for developing cross-cultural understanding. That can be a really positive thing.
For War News Radio, I'm Sarah Dwider.